Welcome to No Direction, the Pathfinder News, Reviews, and Interviews podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Costello.
I'm Anthony Lee, filling in for Param tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, Param can't make it tonight, but we had a scheduled interview, and so the show must go on. There's no time for delays. You don't know what's going to happen on these treacherous high seas. Our interview today is a Pathfinder Tales author. He recently had his second book in the Pathfinder Tales line come out, the second one in his Pirates series, first one being Pirates Honor, which was well-reviewed last year or the year before when it first came out, well-reviewed by us, and Pirates Promise recently came out in December. So we'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Chris A. Jackson.
Good to be here.
How are you doing, Chris?
Doing great.
Can I ask what the A is?
A is Adam.
Okay.
Yep.
Sometimes authors that use initials get very protective of the initials. I have no idea what the F in F. Wesley Schneider stands for. I don't think I'll ever know.
I think it's Frank or something like that. Actually, I saw it once.
We're going to have to call that hearsay and rumor, though, because I don't want Wes to get mad at me. But Chris, you're kind of known as the pirate author, so why don't we just start off with asking you, what does pirate mean to you?
Well, I got into writing nautical fiction, trying not to write the Pirates of the Caribbean book, but and that was the previous nautical fantasy series I did, the Scimitar Sea series, and I had a lot of fun with that. But I kind of stepped beside myself and said, why are you dodging something that's so popular? And so when it came the opportunity to write the fun-loving, gregarious, do-gooder pirate, and in Torius Vin, I jumped on it, and I think Paizo receives that kind of thing a lot better than the villainous, nasty pirate. I really couldn't go there with Pathfinder Tales. I wanted to write a pirate who was a hero. So I think pirates can be a little bit of anything, but as far as real pirates go, no, they're bad guys.
So then how can a pirate be a protagonist, and can a pirate be a good guy?
I think it's the old Errol Flynn story, only it's steal from the bad guys and keep it all yourself kind of thing. But doing good things, and it's that, if you want to put an alignment to it, that chaotic good mentality, out for freedom and the carefree lifestyle, and the rob from the rich kind of thing. That was a fine line to walk. I had to make the pirates believable as pirates. They were stealing from people, for monetary gain, but they were also good people. They didn't kill unless it was absolutely necessary. They didn't take slaves, and as you know, and if you've read the series, things really kind of progress in that vein. And I had that kind of in mind when I started the whole thing.
Yeah, that I think is something that really needs to be I will compliment you for your choice in slaves being Torius Vin's kind of Achilles heel. That's the thing he absolutely hates, and it's funny because that's totally legal in a lot of Golarion, but we as the readers totally agree that this is something that's wrong. So you can see exactly how he's breaking the rules. He's a bad guy, legally speaking, but he's a good guy in our hearts.
Right, and that was, you're absolutely right. That was definitely the crux. Is he's a lawbreaker. He's breaking the law, and as you know now, if you're reading through Pirates Promise, he's wanted by the law, and for doing what all of us would want to do, freeing slaves, right? So it's a win.
Definitely. Hello? Yes. So authors tend to write what they know and write what they're familiar with. So I'm going to ask you bluntly, are you in fact in real life a pirate?
No. I have never stolen anything in my life other than maybe a piece of bubble gum from a friend of mine when he wasn't looking when I was in grade school. But I'm a horrible person in that way, yeah. No, I have a phobia about law breaking. I can't even jilt on a parking ticket or anything else like that. But it's interesting because I have been in parts of the world where piracy happens. we were down in Trinidad, and another boat that we knew were pirated. They were boarded by pirates, and it was violent. It was terrible, and sometimes scary. But in reality, I think where we were, you're probably safer than you ever were walking a dark street at night in a major U.S. Metropolitan area, if you know what I mean. But no, I've never pirated anything. Maybe music. I don't know.
Now, I was mostly alluding to the fact that you spend a significant amount of your time on the seas.
Yeah. Yes, I do. My wife and I saved up to quit our perfectly good jobs in 2009, and we figured we'd get about three years of sailing in. We had lived on a sailboat for some time already in Florida, and so we figured, hey, let's do it. And we sailed up and down the East Coast and down to the Caribbean, and then some of the books started selling pretty well. And right now, I'm pretty much supporting us just writing. So I'm sailing and I'm writing about sailing. So it doesn't get much better than that.
Was that the plan all along, to be some kind of a high seas author?
Not at all. I've churned out, before I got into writing nautical fantasy with the Scimitar Seas novels, that were published, 2009 I think was the first year the first one came out. Now I've published 4 of those, and with Dragon Moon Press. But no, like I said, I kind of didn't want to get pigeonholed that way, because Pirates of the Caribbean had come out, and it was the whole, oh, you're just a POTC clone, blah blah blah. It's not a real story, and I kind of dodged that, and I wrote a bunch of other stuff too that's actually doing very well. I have a fantasy series that's pretty much a lot of my bread and butter money comes from Kindle sales of self-published stuff that I published before the Scimitar books came out, and it took off a couple of years ago out of nowhere, and I've pursued that series. It's called the Weapon of Flesh series. It's magical assassin series. Yeah, it's pretty. It's not like hardcore stuff. It's almost YA, really, but it's a fantasy romantic kind of milieu. But it's fun stuff, and it's selling really well.
Just the name is unpleasant.
Well, it's kind of a throwback. When I named that novel, I kind of knew I would get some I don't know, flack for it, because it does have that connotation. It almost sounds like porn, right? But it's not in any way, shape, or form. It's the old adage that if you watch the old Conan the Barbarian movie, it's what's stronger, flesh or steel? Flesh is stronger, right? Because it wields the steel. So this boy assassin was made to be nothing but a weapon, and he's such a honed assassin that he is a weapon, so he's a weapon of flesh. So
I think we learned when Prince of Wolves came out and there was a Harlequin novel of the same title that there's a very fine line between a fantasy title and a porn title.
Oh yes, yeah. You can Stalking the Beast. There's one, and you can go down any kind of fantasy title. In fact, I try to actually do Google searches of book titles before I title my books, so that I don't get into trouble that way.
I guess in a fantasy novel it's literal, but it's a little more metaphorical in porn. But anyway. I do want to plug that...
All ages show, Ryan.
Right, it is.
In any case, we are airing this live, but unfortunately I posted a link to our page that this did not start airing to, so I guess if you're listening to this, then you figured that out and figured out that I posted a new link that for whatever reason is calling this No Direction 95. So just to the listeners that tried to listen to this live and are now listening to this as a podcast, that's the explanation. There were technical difficulties, which tends to happen when I'm the guy that's producing the podcast instead of Param. So apologies if you were planning to join us live. The other thing is I don't see a comment thread underneath the YouTube video. So if you are watching us live and you want to comment, I invite you to go to the Facebook page with this event, episode 104, Pirate Star, and you can post your comments there, and we'll try and add them to our questions and post them to Chris.
Yep, yep. So moving along with you mentioned not wanting to be pigeonholed into the whole sort of super pirate genre. So I have to ask, how did Pirate's Honor and then Pirate's Promise come to be? Did you reach out to James Sutter? Did he reach out to you? What's the story behind that?
I had been going to Gen Con for a couple of years, and I walked up to James Sutter. I just finished the Scimitar Seas novels. I just put the fourth one out, and we'd won 3 sequential gold medals for Best Fantasy Novel of the Year from Forward Book Reviews for that series, which has never been done before. So I had some kudos. I had my my under my belt. I had some guns to walk up to James Sutter, because it was hard for me to do that, to break that, because I'm a self-published author. I published through a small press, but I walked up to James and I said, look, you guys are putting out all these pirate adventures. They had just planned to put out the Skull and Shackles thing. They've got all these nautical rules, and none of the novelists were putting out any pirate stories. And I said, you need me. You really need somebody to write you a pirate story, and I'm your guy. And he said, well, cool, send me a writing sample. And that was at Gen Con, and so I sent him a writing sample, a couple of chapters from the Scimitar Seas books. I think at the time he didn't realize that I wasn't just a self-published author. That's the way he tells the story, is he had no clue who I was, and that I'd written anything at all and gotten anything published. And that's kind of his cutoff. If you ask James who he accepts and who he takes seriously, he wants people to have at least one professional sale before he'll look at their work seriously, which is a good rule, really. It just kind of cuts down on the slush that he has to read. But anyway, about 6 months later, when he was cleaning out his inbox, he saw that and sent me an email and said, I read your writing samples, so why don't you pitch me some web fiction ideas, nautical? And I said, great. How many do you want? How many pitches do you want? He said, send me 4, 5, 6, maybe. And so I just sat down and cranked them out, and a couple of days later I sent him 6 pitches, just one little paragraph things about what's going to happen. And he said, great, I like this one. And it turned out to be the pitch for the short story Stargazer that is now up on the webfic page. And I said, great, do you mind if I put in elements of more than one? He says, no, great. So I said, okay, tell me exactly what you want. He said, well, okay, 4 chapters, 2,000 words apiece. Every chapter is a cliffhanger. And I said, except for the last one. I said, great, no problem. And so I handed it to him in 6 days. And he said, well, wow, that was quick. And I was possessed. I really, really wanted this. And, this is the advantage of not having a day job, is I could just hang up everything and sit down and in 6 days crank out this short story, polish it, and hand it to him. And so he said that was fast. Let me read it. And 2 weeks later, I got a email from him, and the subject line was Paizo novel. And I just jumped right out of my skin. I was so freaked out because I had played Pathfinder for years prior to walking up to James and saying, I want to write a book for you. And he said, I think it would be a good match, but here's the thing. I have a hole in my publishing schedule, and if you can get me a finished manuscript, 100,000 word manuscript in 5 months, you can have it. And I said, not a problem. And I write fast when I need to, and I didn't have any projects in the hopper right then, so my wife and I just literally dropped anchor in one of the most beautiful islands in the Caribbean and did nothing for 2 months but write. And I wrote the first draft of Pirate's Honor in 29 days. Then it took 3 months to edit it, of course, because when you write that fast, you make mistakes. And my wife is my first-line editor, and she's fantastic, and she keeps me honest. And we handed it in 15 days ahead of time.
Wow. Also, I love that dropping anchor is literal for you. Yep, that's what you did.
Yep. Yeah, we were in St. Lucia, which is a beautiful island in the Caribbean, and our schedule was wake up early, and I would literally write until noon. You drink coffee, eat breakfast, and write until noon. And then we would get up and stretch and go for a swim or a snorkel or do something, go ashore for a couple of hours. And in the evening, I'd read what I wrote that morning and kind of edit it and mishmash it around in my head. And then the next morning, I would wake up at 3 a.m. with the next scene in my head, and go tear off again and start writing. And I'd write until noon. But I was putting out 3 to 5,000 words a day.
Now, you obviously have
30 days straight. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I had a couple of days off in there, I think.
So your firsthand naval experience, that may be the reason that I think you kind of ruined naval scenes for all the other Pathfinder authors, because you set the bar so high. There's such an authenticity to everything that's happening on the boat, especially in Pirate's Honor. When I was reviewing it, I was really complimenting the scene where it was kind of a boat dogfight, which is very different from, say, a spaceship dogfight, because it was taking place over hours and hours, and Torius Vin, our captain, took a nap, he had a meal, and it was just so real. And so, like, anyone else that writes that similar scene would probably be like, oh, Torius Vin he's got a telescope the whole time, he's nervous, he's biting his nails. But no, you played it authentic, I assume. Like, you convinced me that that's how this scene should be written from now on.
Okay, as far as that goes, I really have to give credit to Patrick O'Brien. I read a lot of Patrick O'Brien. In fact, his entire series, the Aubrey Maturin series that became Master and Commander, the movie Master and Commander. And I got a lot of that flavor that, yes, we're in a dogfight and positioning is everything, but it's going to take 12 hours for us to position, to actually get within range to actually fight. And then the rest of it is mayhem. So it's boredom, tension, boredom, tension, boredom, tension, mayhem. And yeah, it was a lot of fun doing it and structuring those scenes. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. And I took some heat because, too, from some reviewers that said, well, it's not really fantasy-esque enough, because I did cut back a little bit on the use of magic and things like that. The killer spells that can literally sink a ship in one round, because I just wanted to play the nautical combat elements a little bit more, and I'm glad it worked.
Well, I would say that how you write fantasy is granular. Like, Torius Vin and Celeste's relationship is a great example of that, because yes, it kind of is weird that a human is having a relationship with a Naga, but you're approaching it in the way I think that is realistic. This is an intelligent creature with a person's face, and they may have personalities that click, and they may find a way to fall in love, but it also is something that the other people looking at it may be judging it, and it's just, it rings true to me. And so, as much as people compliment you on your piracy, I think you should also be complimented on your character work.
I'm definitely a character writer. I get an idea for a novel, and then the next thing I will do is decide who the characters are and how they fit into the story I want to tell. And honestly, from then on, it's the characters telling the story. I played around with Celeste and Torius in the short fiction. I got to play with them a little bit, and then during the writing of Pirate's Honor, they just really came to life. And I don't think I've had a single. I thought I was going to take some heat for that, for writing a story that could be misconstrued as this man is having a relationship with a monster. Because, Celeste is a Lunar Naga, and she is in the monster manual, right? Well, the bestiary, right? But it's that whole idea of you're right, you're absolutely right. She's a sentient creature, she's beautiful. That's how I decided to use a Lunar Naga. I was flipping through the bestiary 3, and saw this beautiful creature, and wow, I thought, she's just sensational, and sensuous, and beautiful, and intelligent, and she's all about the stars, and it clicked in my head. Celestial navigation, right? That's where I got her name, Celeste.
Anthony.
Oh, hi. So, listener questions. Matthew Calder asks, when are you coming back down to Tampa to visit the pirate crew?
I'm planning on being in Tampa a couple of times this year. Definitely down for Necronomicon, which is in October, I believe. I may be down earlier than that. We're socializing with some people down there, some really close friends. I got to do. These are my gaming buddies. I don't get to play RPGs as much now that we're sailing full time anymore. But we take at least 2 quote quote vacations every year and hook up with some really close friends of ours and do like nonstop gaming for a week. But I'll be down there. I'll definitely be down there for Necro and I'll see Matthew. We'll definitely, maybe we'll go out and to Beef for Brady's and go gaming there.
I want to talk there. Okay, I would consider there 3 main characters to Pirate's Promise, which surprised me because one of those 3 I considered kind of a just not even a secondary character to Pirate's Honor. She just kind of became relevant towards the end, and that's Vreva the courtesan. One of the things that surprised me, first of all, in Pirate's Promise, is that she was even included, because if she wasn't there, I don't think she would have felt missed. But what really surprised me was just how much more I was looking forward to the Vreva chapters than I was to the Toriazvin and Celeste chapters.
Yeah, she kind of did steal the show a little bit, I think, and that's what I get for letting the characters write the story. But I've gotten some good reviews for the relationship between Vreva and Zarina. Some people said it's one of the best romances they ever read, and it definitely plays. But I knew who Vreva was when I was writing Pirate's Honor, the first book. I knew what she was, but it wasn't part of that story. And so when I pitched bringing her out from behind the curtain for the second book, James said, "Yeah, that's fantastic. We now have a Matahari who's consorting with pirates. It's fantastic." So I think it's working pretty well.
It's funny that you're saying people are reviewing it well as a great relationship, because their first scene where they really clicked with me, I thought was one of the greatest interrogation scenes ever written.
Oh, right, where they first met.
Yeah.
In Vreva's apartment or on the dock?
In Vreva's apartment, where it really, at first she's like, oh no, she's a very subtle inquisitor. She's really getting to me. And then it's like, or no, wait, maybe she's sincere this whole time and just likes me. Is this a date or an interrogation? What is happening right now?
Right, yeah.
I felt so much sympathy for an inquisitor. Like, it must be really hard for inquisitors to date, because people are just going to always assume you're trying to get information out of them.
Right, yeah. It's like, that's why I think people like FBI agents and people like that, they always date inside their own little cliques. You know, they date other FBI agents. They don't date regular people because you can't say anything, right?
She actually, that relationship dominates a lot of the first 200 pages. Was there any pushback, like from your editor, just saying like, this was supposed to be a pirate novel, why are we in the desert with the courtesan so much?
Not really so much pushback. The thing about writing a pirate novel is, and even if you read a lot of the Patrick O'Briens, is a good half of the story happens on land. And it pretty much has to, because if you don't change the setting away from a 150-foot long ship throughout a 300-page novel, you're going to be in dire straits, because the setting has to change. You have to jump back and forth. And the trick, I think, with a nautical novel, and what I tried to do in Pirate's Promise a lot more than Pirate's Honor, is take it off the ship and change up the venue and do little time shifts, so that, yeah, the 5-day trip doesn't really, I'm not just describing a 5-day trip at sea. You know, we're back talking to somebody else while Toria sails between 2 cities. So yeah, and splitting up the characters in 3 different places at 3 different times was kind of key to drive the story forward. You know, separation and then getting back together. Well, hopefully getting back together. You haven't finished the book yet, so I can't spoil that for you.
And what about some of the rest of the crew? Because in Pirates Honor, we got a lot of name checks. We got to know a couple of the members of the crew. Whereas Pirates Promise, they're a little further in the background. How do you measure who gets how much weight in the story?
Because I was head hopping between 3 primary POV characters in Pirates Promise, I did not have a lot of room to play with the secondary characters much, and I kind of missed it. I kind of hate to say this, but the third novel is also a 3 POV. The next one that's going to be coming out is also a 3 POV novel, and it's kind of a little bit the same. I really truly love some of the secondary characters, especially Snick and Grogol. The interplay between the two of them and the rest of the crew are fantastic. It's fantastic, and I really these people try to keep stealing the show, and it's a fight every day I write not to let them steal the show. But yeah, including the secondary characters was really, really important, and I know that the fans really do truly love the secondary characters. I've also taken a little bit of heat for making them kind of stereotypical, but I kind of almost did that on purpose. You know, you have the big brawny orc, half orc, you have the mischievous gnome, and you have the archer elf, right? It's everybody's gaming party. But I kind of did that on purpose to not draw too much attention away from the primary characters. If you have really, really, really interesting, cool secondary characters, it kind of pulls the focus away. And so I had to kind of make them out of a bolt of cloth. But I do love them a lot, and they are kind of fun to play with. So.
Anthony, we've got a question from listener Darren Caldemeyer, which I'll leave up to you.
Darren Caldemeyer asks, are there any other regions of Golarion which you would love to write about?
Oh, geez. Kind of. I'd love to go off the map, but I haven't really gotten the okay to do that much yet. I would like to delve into southern Garand. There's a lot of space to grow down there, but I mean, since it's a seaborne adventure, I'm kind of locked into staying on the coasts. But yeah, I get to stretch my legs. There's another novel in the works that we're kind of pushing the envelope on the outside. I can't really divulge too much on that one, but we kind of work the edges of the map. So yeah, there's a lot of places I'd like to go.
Now, hear me out on this. What about a space pirate novel with the same cast, just space?
Okay, there was a line, I think, in Pirates Promise that Torius says they talk about bringing the whole ship to the observatory in Katapesh instead of just doing a caravan, and Torius says, "Do you know how much a wizard wanted to levitate the whole ship?" or something like that. And then he says the line, "Boy, what about a flying pirate ship? Would that be cool or what?" And so yeah, but oh yeah, I could take that on the road for sure, and have them end up hopping to some of the other planets. I have to talk to James about that. That would be a lot of fun to take him to. What are some of the other I can't remember any of the planet names. Brethida or
James
anyway.
wrote one of them in Distant Worlds, and if you can figure out which one he's particularly fond of, that might be your in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I could just ask him up front. Where can I go? But no, that would be a lot of fun. There are lots of oceans in the solar system. Mm-hmm. But I think because the ships are more nautical, not space ships per se, we might have to just transport the whole ship to another planet and plunk it down in the ocean to play around, which would be fun. But yeah, if Paizo ever goes into the whole Spelljammer universe with the spaceships and things like that, that would be a lot of fun to play with.
So, with Paizo's material, writing tie-in fiction can be difficult for some authors because they're not writing in a world of their own. So, how's it been for you, and how have you been successful writing for Golarion?
Um, I really enjoy writing for the Pathfinder Tales novels, mainly because it's one of the coolest sandboxes in the world to play in because of all the cool toys that I'm fairly familiar with. I mean, I am not absolutely over the top with Golarion lore or even Pathfinder lore, but I know the game. I've played the game. It's a lot of fun, and it kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off as to how I have to develop a setting. I I do have my own world that I write novels into, and um, you know, I don't have a problem writing under their rules. You know, they the the answer is the downside is that I don't get to break the toys. I can't sink Absalom or blow Cheliax off the map. Although I really like to. Um, Dave Gross would really be angry with me if I did that, though. He's so in love with Cheliax.
Um, I hold in my hand I held in my hand the Ileana Minimate. Ileana is the protagonist in Stalking the Beast. And so there is precedence that some of the Pathfinder Tales characters get merchandise. Is there any way you can get us a Torius Vin Pathfinder Mini, or is there any way you can merchandise pirate books?
I would love to get on that bandwagon. I've mentioned it a couple of times to certain people, but I don't know the community that well. So if you know people who run minis, I would love to have a Celeste mini. I think that would be one of the coolest minis. I don't even think they have many Naga minis.
I can think of maybe one.
Really? Yeah. And I think a Celeste mini would just be the coolest thing in the universe. But if I can get that made, I'll get one to you for sure because I want the Celeste mini. It was fun because when the Stargazer short came out, I got some really good artwork for some of the characters. I loved the artwork for Celeste and for Grogol and for Torius Vin, and I actually, if you ever see me at a convention, I have taken the cover for Pirate's Honor, and those three characters and put them on a big roll-up poster. So it's 80 inches high, and the characters are almost life-size, and it's really fun. But yeah, by all means, I want the pirate ship.
Oh wow!
So anybody out there get into doing pirate ships? That would be fun.
Now, just to update, there's actually 3 Nagas in the minis line. I'm trying to figure out if any of them are lunar Nagas. It doesn't look like it. So there's still room for another Naga. And if they're going to do a lunar Naga, why not just make it Celeste?
It should be. I think we need to just make it so.
Another question from Darren Caldemeyer. He says, any thought of trickling in Jirel into the novels, even as a name drop? Jirel?
Jirel.
Jirelle. I was hoping you would know what he was referring to.
Swashbuckler iconic.
Oh, is it?
Iconic swashbuckler.
Oh no, I have not. Not yet. Anyway, that's not a bad idea. I'll have to think about that. I know that some of the Iconics made cameos in James Sutter's Redemption Engine, although I think one of them was throwing up at the time. But it was definitely a cameo. That would be interesting. No, I have not thought of that, but that's definitely a doable thing.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but when the Pathfinder Tales novels were released and it wasn't about the Iconics, that kind of surprised some of us. And there's been this weird divide of here's the Pathfinder Tales universe and those characters, and then here's the Iconics and the RPG stuff. And every now and then, usually Jaeger or Varian will be name checked in a Pathfinder campaign setting book, but I'm always surprised that there's not more cross-pollination in that regard.
Yeah, the thing about writing a novel, and I have done this, I wrote a short story for Privateer Press, um, that I got to write a short story using one of their iconic characters, a pirate named Phineas Shea, and it's hard to do because if there's things already written about this character, you have to get into the character's head that somebody else created, and so it's kind of hard to make it connect right. I think I did pretty well in that novelette for Privateer Press, but as far as like writing the iconics for Paizo, I don't even know if I would want to attempt it. And they're getting into the comics now, so a lot is being written there with the Pathfinder comic line. So they're delving into the iconics. So
They are, but that's one a month. We've gotten 12 of them by the end of this year, and by now we've got like 25 iconics. It just the pace is not quite what I would like. But
well,
that's
it's the publication. Yeah, it's the publication schedule is tough, and I mean, Paizo's going to go where their major payoff is, and that's the game. You know what I mean? So putting fiction out really supports the game and is really good for a lot of the fans. But as far as a money-making proposition goes, I think they're putting most of their energies into the game itself, which is totally understandable. Although we're having a heck of a lot of fun writing fiction for it. All the writers I've talked to have just been, oh yeah, this is fantastic. Most fun I've had since I sat down at a keyboard.
How does working with the other authors work, or maybe not working with them, but how much conversations do you have with the other Pathfinder Tales authors?
Not a great deal. I got to socialize with Howard Andrew Jones and Dave Gross a little bit at Gen Con, and Richard Lee Byers, and I've known Richard for forever. He's from Tampa, which is where I was for years and years. We met at a convention down there years and years ago. And of course, Ed Greenwood, I know Ed. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on. As a matter of fact, I'm working with a project with Ed now too. It's such an interesting community. There's a lot of stuff going around and around and around, and everybody. I stepped into this kind of as like I said, a self-published author, and I published a book with Paizo, and it was the most amazing experience for me to be sitting at my own little table at Gen Con, and then a publisher, an editor from a publishing house, walks up to my table and says, "So you write pirate fiction, right?" And that was Aaron Riddell from Privateer Press, and he says, "I think we'd like to write a pirate story for us because we got this pirate and nobody's writing them." And I said, "Okay, I'd love to." So that's a cool experience. But yeah, hanging with the other authors and even online. Leanne Marcel, author of the Night Glass and Nightblade novels. I don't know if you've seen this thread on the Paizo boards, but she did a fragrance analysis of the characters, the female and some of the male characters in the book. You really should read it. It's fantastic reading. She's a perfume aficionado, and she's really given me some ideas for my characters, especially Reba Jaffe and Celeste and Zarina, for what fragrances they'd wear and how provoking a fragrance can be and how lingering and how it can always, provoke emotional responses in people if you recognize somebody, say if you had a girlfriend who always wore opium, and then you later in life meet a woman who's wearing opium, it clicks in your mind that. And that memory clicks. So there's a lot to be said for that. But that was a fun thread to read. So I got to talking to Leanne Marcel, and I asked her if I could use a line in the novel. So the next novel coming out, which I can say it now, is Pirate's Prophecy, has a Leanne Marcel line in it.
I remember you had a thread going on for guessing the title of Pirate's Promise. I was kind of hoping I would get a chance to guess what the third book's title would be.
Oh, sorry about that.
I didn't let you know.
I thought it was out already.
Oh, is it? Oh, well then I would have just been guessing at something everyone else knew.
I don't know if everybody knows it yet, but yeah, that's the title, Pirate's Prophecy, and some twists and turns, but it's a lot of fun.
I like your titling convention that because pirate can go a couple of different ways, as we talked about earlier, the word accompanying pirate tends to have a positive spin to it. So pirate's honor, pirate's promise, like these are positive things. These fill me with like hope that these pirates are good guys.
That was the intention. Yeah, I definitely didn't want to say like pirates, blood and guts, or something like that. Pirates, rape and pillage. No, that wasn't going to be a title. In fact, actually, that was one stipulation in the that I got from James, I think, up front, is I couldn't base it in the shackles because that's where the AP was, and I didn't want to cross all of that already, created material. And they had to be heroes. They had to be at least, out for the good in the end. And I think creating a pirate captain who was all about loyalty and was all about his honor and had some foibles to start with. Your first review of Pirate's Honor, you didn't really like Torius much, and I totally understood why, because he didn't have a lot of redeeming qualities in the first half of the book, and that was the whole point of it, is that people are flawed and people are fallible, and I don't ever really buy the perfect character. I get into writing the hero; it's a lot of fun. But I want the hero to be flawed and a little bit messy around the edges. So
it's funny. I didn't remember not liking Torius. I believe you. I'd forgotten that I disliked him.
I just watched this was before you guys had finished the whole book. You did like a preview. You'd read like a third of the way through, and I mean he says a few things that are reprehensible in the first half of that book. I mean he calls Vreva a whore. He doesn't like the fact that she sells herself. He is an addict himself. He's addicted to Celeste's venom, and hates himself for it. So there's some complex stuff going on, but he totally redeems himself. I mean, it all comes out in the end. So.
Well, in case I didn't update it clear enough in the full review that we gave to the book, I know I was critical of Vreva because I felt that she kind of came off as shallow, and I didn't get why she was so into Torius, but that she redeemed herself by the end of the book. She became a much more interesting character, and again, in Pirate's Promise, she is my favorite part of the book.
Oh, cool. So now you know why she was the way she was in the first book, right?
I do. Well done.
Exactly, and that was so hard to keep under the hat throughout the first book, is what she was and why she was doing it. So I'm glad it came through.
Was there ever a draft where you tried and it was just didn't work?
I appreciate the way.
What's that, Anthony? I missed it.
Sorry, I was gonna say I appreciate the for had gotten a chance to read Pirate's Promise.
Okay, I'll try not to do too many spoilers for you then, but I mean, if you read the release notes, you know at least what Vreva is. But anyway,
that's in the release notes.
It's in the web release page. If you just look at the web release page for Pirate's Promise, the first line out of it states clearly what.
Yeah, I have the press release printed out here, and I guess I didn't read it over because, yeah, it does contain a pretty decent spoiler to one of the earlier twists in the book.
Right. Yeah.
I like going into books fresh.
Yeah, I do too. I tend to read blurbs, and if it gives too much, it kind of like, why are you telling me this? But then generally, I mean, like in Pirate's Promise, you learn that pretty much the first chapter anyway, so it's not a huge spoiler.
We have a question from Neil Spicer. Are there any plans to introduce a recurring villain with enough survivability to act as continuing foil to Torius, Celeste, Vreva, and his crew?
Not yet. No, I don't have any. Returning villains. I thought about pulling Benrahia Khan out of the can, having him escape prison from. Well, I don't want to ruin the first book too much, but. For another book, but no, I don't think I want to go there. There's other things, other directions I want to go, but that's not out of the realm of possibility. I've had a lot of fan comeback as to characters in the second book and am I going to bring back some of the characters from the second book later on? And well, it's all up in the air. I need to talk to the powers that be about that. So we'll see what we can do.
Now, your contract does work one book at a time, right? So you've been talking about a third book, and you've been alluding to a future for the series, but the only one we know for sure right now is Pirate's Prophecy will be the next one.
Yes, Pirate's Prophecy is pretty much in the can. I haven't done the final edits with James on it yet, but we have, gotten it to him, and other than just the final edits with James and the cover art, it's a done thing. We are working. I'm currently working on a fourth book that shall remain nameless.
And is that official, or are you just trying to get ahead?
No, I have a contract for it. So the
good.
contract is signed, and the outline was submitted, edited, re-edited, re-edited. James and I went back and forth a lot on this outline for this next book. So we did finally hammer it out, and I'm in the writing process now. So it's a deal. I mean, I could still fall apart and not finish the novel and have to hand back my advance. So, but no, it's in the works. It's definitely in the works. So I like them, and they like me, and the fans seem to like me, and I'm happy. I'm happy with this. I like the relationship, and I love working for Paizo. These are cool people.
Now, the Pirates books is one of the few series that we've got, or at least it's one of the first series we've got. We had a lot of standalone books in the Pathfinder Tales line. How much intention was there for you to carry on with these same characters after the first one?
There was all the intention in the world to continue with these same characters, but it was made clear that we really want people to be able to pick up the story almost anywhere. And I realize that there's a lot of backstory in the first book that if you don't know it, if you haven't read the first book, the second book kind of leaves you wanting, well, who are these people and why are they hanging out, and who is this woman, and are all these things happening? So, but I mean, I think you can pick up some of Dave Gross's books, and be in a little bit the same boat. If you don't have the backstory for his characters, I mean, there's standalone books, but I mean, if anybody asked me where do I start reading, read from the beginning. If you're going to read Dave's books, start with Prince of Wolves, and go from there. I really think that's the best way to approach it. But I honestly think you could pick them up anywhere and enjoy them. But I think for the fullest enjoyment, you really should read from the beginning. That doesn't throw out the impossibility of me doing another standalone book that has nothing to do with any of the pirate books too. So, because I do have other ideas. Mwahaha, evil laugh.
Do you have any insight into the Tor deal? How does this affect you as an author?
I love it. It's fantastic. The ability to get the titles on Kindle is a whole distribution shift. It widens our audience immensely, and it puts the novels on the biggest digital format in the world. So I don't really see a downside to it at all. And looking at Dave Gross's cover, these guys are going all out for cover art, so it's beautiful. And James has still got the reins as far as editorial goes, and he gets to pick the authors and what gets published. So it's good, and it's good. I don't see a downside.
You mentioned earlier that one of the last things to be done for Book 3 is the cover. How much insight or how much input do you have into the cover?
It's interesting. I had a lot of input for the first two books, for the cover art for the first two books. I mean, definitely for the first one, I wanted that shot with the Cicalia grabbing Torius. And the second one, that was just about one of the only scenes in the book where a monster came into it. So that was the cover for the second book. The third one, I threw out a couple of ideas to the powers that be, and they kind of wanted to go a different way. And I think part of that actually might be due to the new format. It's the novels that Tor is putting out are a larger format. They're trade paperback size, which is like 8x5, instead of the the pocketbook, the mass market pocketbook paperback, which is like 5x3 or whatever. So that gives you a lot more room for really cool cover art. So they didn't really like my ideas for cover art for the third book, so they're going in a different direction, and I'm dying to see it. I can't wait. It came up in a discussion I had with James, and he said, well, we kind of want this, and I said, well, you guys are the publishers. If that's what you want on the cover, I'm all over it. It'll be a great image. So that might be taking in a little bit of a shift in a different direction from the traditional Pathfinder Tales covers. They might be going for a lot of the more epic big pictures instead of the character-oriented covers like they have had in the past. So, I mean, if you look at Dave's cover, it's definitely an epic cover. You see, I mean, Jagare is on the back of a dragon, and the dragon is mowing down zombies like they're grass, and that's an epic cover. Whereas if you look at the other of Dave's book or my books or Howard Andrew Jones' books or any of them, they're very character-oriented. They're very close-up character fighting something. And this is a step backwards, a lot bigger picture. So, but it's all good. It's great.
We are coming up on our hour, so we're going to be wrapping up soon. Anthony, did you have any last questions for Chris?
I think I've got everything.
Then, Chris, we're going to end with a couple of... Well, first of all, a nice compliment from a listener. Maria E. Frias says, I love the feeling that I could smell the salt in the air when I read Pirate's Honor.
Cool. Thank you, Maria.
And I'm going to ask you, could you give us a 5-word tease for Pirate's Prophecy? We can give you up to 10 words. How about that?
Okay, I can do it in 5. The gods choose your level up.
Cool.
So think about the title of the book.
Yeah.
Think about that. Worry it over in your mind and speculate.
I'm not going to openly speculate. Maybe this will be a discussion we'll have on the Facebook group.
Cool. All right.
Where are you going to be? Where can people see you over the next couple of months?
Oh, geez. I'm in the next couple of months, April 11 through 13, I'm going to be in Toronto at Astra. Late April, I'm going to be doing RavenCon in Virginia. Then I'm doing PaizoCon in Seattle. And hopefully I'll be able to play some games this time. And after that, it's Gen Con, then DragonCon, and then I'm hoping to do the small Necronomicon in my hometown. Well, not hometown, but my adopted hometown, Tampa. So pretty busy this year. Trying to get the word out.
Excellent, Chris. Are there any last shout-outs you have? Anything you want to bring people's attention to?
I just want to say thanks. You can check out my website. It's Jack's Books, JAXBOOKS.com. If you want insights to my other work, if you like the nautical stuff, I have the Scimitar series. If you want some other stuff, I've got some self-published novels out there that, like I said, they're doing pretty well and people like them. So enjoy, and I love doing what I do. So the more reviews I get, the more shout-outs I get, the more I can keep sailing and keep writing about sailing.
Well, I can tell you that we're going to be reviewing Pirate's Promise in the next episode, and it's not going to be a spoiler that it's probably going to be a pretty positive review.
Oh, we'll go. Glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad you like Breva. She's definitely one of my favorite characters.
And I'm glad you joined us. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Chris.
We'll be right back
with
the news right after this. All right, so, Chris, we're off the air, sort of, but people can still watch and hear everything you're saying, so don't go spoiling Pirate's Prophecy.
Yeah, I still see that live button on the corner.
So for you to exit the chat, you just have to click the red receiver button, like a phone receiver. It's on the top menu.
Okay. I totally don't see it.
Do you see the...
If you move your cursor around the screen,
I got it.
up here.
Okay. Adios.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Chris. And I guess we'll send you a link to the episode.
Thank you, Chris. Yep. Ryan, is there still a delay?
Let's try it. When I say make some, you say noise. Make some.
Noise.
Ooh, there is a delay. 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah. I know. So while the interview was going on, I kept sending pings into our chat,
Yeah.
and was timing my delay, and it went from like 2 seconds all the way up to 45. Yeah. So I apologize for that, anyone who's listening live. That would be why there's some awkward pauses in the interview.
At one point, you asked Chris a question, and it was completely garbled for me, and I had no idea what you said, but then he answered it. So either he's really good at understanding garbling, or it was just a one-way thing.
It's odd, yeah. Like everything else I'm doing, I'm not really experiencing any sort of technical difficulties. But like, I don't know if you noticed, but Google Hangouts booted me twice, and then logged me back in automatically. So
I noticed you leave.
Technology is weird.
Whose fault it was? By the way, can you see the comments in the chat?
So I have the YouTube thing open, our YouTube page, and like I logged into our live stream, and I've just paused it, and so I'm getting a live update of more or less live as soon as we're getting sort of comments and questions in. Yeah. So I guess the answer is yes.
I actually see the comments now. They were nowhere near where they usually are, so that's why I was missing them. I'm glad
they did change it, and they added in like there's a bunch of stuff from last episode, like still in this sort of through line. So I was really confused initially, but I mean, we got their questions out, so that's the important part.
Cool. I'm just checking to see. I see someone addressing me. Oh, okay. Yeah, Alex telling me that Gyrel is the iconic swashbuckler, but we already covered that. Bard Wannabe says Mythic Pirates, and that's actually also my guess based on Chris's hint. But that's not going in the episode. This is the stuff between the episode.
It's true. My personal speculation, and this may be tinted because I just read Redemption Engine, but I think it might have to do with sort of planar travel. So, I don't know. I am all James L. Sutter tainted from sort of Pharasman courts, and all of his sort of big ideas of planar travel have been buzzing through my head. So that's probably where that thought comes from.
All right. Well, based on this little chat we've been having, it seems like the delay is no longer a problem. But I still
famous last words.
Yeah. For the news, we'll handle the 2 first topics. We'll see about getting to the 3rd topic. There's actually what's the 3rd topic now will become the 4th topic because I want to cover this. And we'll see if we can get to the 3rd and 4th topics after the first 2. All right.
Okay. Do you want to handle the first? Oh, I see it's in red. I'm handling the first. Great. Okay.
All right. Let me just grab a link. Something went wrong. What are you talking about? Something went wrong. Firefox. Hello, listeners. How's everyone doing? They're not answering.
Well, I mean, do they show you a delay for the sort of the live stream?
Oh, I'm actually not even looking at the live stream. I'm trying to get a link.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry, I didn't get to see this outline with links while I was at work today.
That's my bad.
No worries.
All right. So we will start the news segment in 3, 2, 1. In the Pathfinder news segment, we talk about all the latest happenings from Paizo for the Pathfinder role-playing game, also from third-party publishers, just basically anything that might be of interest to Pathfinder enthusiasts. Sometimes, unfortunately, that is bad news, as is our first item, which, Anthony, you brought to my attention earlier today.
Yes, it is with a great deal of sadness that the RPG community and the gaming community in general mourns the passing of Mike McArthur. Mike worked at Paizo during the earlier days when they had the Dungeon and Dragon magazines. His list of Paizo writing credits includes one of the Adventures in Second Darkness, Dragons Revisited, the Guide to Corvosa, and the campaign setting softback. Recently, he'd been working at Wizards of the Coast as an editor for Magic the Gathering. Mike passed away earlier this week, and according to a close friend, Tim Nightingale, a friend of the show, Mike was instrumental in the founding of PaizoCon, and without him, the convention that celebrates everything to do with Paizo and Pathfinder wouldn't be what it is today. So, Mike McArthur, even though we didn't know you, we certainly felt your impact, and you will be missed.
Yeah, this is one of those situations. I don't know if I've ever met Mike personally, and he just wasn't a name that was on my radar until, unfortunately, he died in a car accident on Tuesday. But what's been kind of encouraging is the reaction that his passing has gotten. It was clear that Mike was a well-liked, well-respected guy, and a lot of people that I consider friends and a lot of people that I respect in this industry respected him. So, I never met him, and now I don't think I'll ever get that opportunity, but he clearly, the impact that he left will continue. Like, he will have a resounding impact on Pathfinder and the gaming community for years to come, obviously.
Absolutely.
But, thank you for doing the research here. It's a nice summary of a lot of the things that I should have known him for, and unfortunately didn't. On brighter news, RPG Superstar 2015. We have our RPG Superstar. We've been following it several months, and Final Four came out. They did their pitches for the Pathfinder module, and it came down to just one. Monica Marlowe. We spoke with her on the Pathfinder on the RPG Superstar special, the top 8 special we put out last month. And Monica, she was an interesting character. I loved the fact that she had never even seen a monster stat block until entering RPG Superstar. She has a fair amount of experience with the Pathfinder role-playing game, but always on the player side. So it's funny. I always liken designers and developers more to GMs. It almost feels like the GM gene has more in common with the designer's gene and the developer gene than the player gene does. But Monica has proved me wrong that sometimes being a person who's sitting down on the player side of it, getting the experience, being told what the story is that she is then reacting to and influencing, that shows you what makes a good story, where there are gaps in the rules that you can come up with ideas to fulfill. Her module pitch was Down the Blighted Path, and we've seen a mock-up of the cover. It's not the actual art that's going to be used, but that's got to be exciting for Monica, just to see her name already on a product that is in development, something that she will be writing for the next few months. Down the Blighted Path, it's a spiteful dark fey necromancer threatens the family lines of an honored dwarven hero to exact vengeance. We have pointed out that dwarves have not played a large part in a lot of the published adventures from Pathfinder, so it's cool that her adventure will feature them, especially if you saw her map turn out. That was my favorite map from that round. It was a hull in the shape of a hammer. Was it a hammer and an anvil? In any case, it was like rich with dwarven iconography, but still made sense as a building. Like, it is the best that map could have been. I could not have imagined an improvement on it. And so the fact that dwarves will play into her adventure, I look forward to how else she can bring dwarves into the adventure, into the iconography. I feel like she gets dwarves, or maybe she just gets Pathfinder, and the fact that she used dwarves is she's showing us that she gets Pathfinder by way of dwarves. But Down the Blighted Path will be a Pathfinder Adventure module for 5th level characters. The PCs should reach 6th level by the end of it. And I believe it will be coming out in December. I believe traditionally the Pathfinder, the RPG Superstar modules come out at the end of the same year that they win the competition. So congratulations again to Monica. Congratulations to everyone that made it from the top 32 on up. RPG Superstar is a great feather to have in your designer caps, and anyone that wants to continue down this line, emphasize that you made RPG Superstar. You made at some point. And Monica, I look forward to reading more of your adventures.
Absolutely. And if any of the other RPG Superstar winners are any sort of an example, she will have a long and distinguished career.
Now, when we had her on the show, she went through the questions quickly because she wanted to make a statement at the end. She wanted to say that she thought the role-playing was a great way to be inclusive and that inclusivity was really important to her. And so she got on a soapbox and she made her point, and I think that may have influenced some people to know that not only is she a designer that they can get behind the design work, but she's also a gamer that they can get behind the similar sentiment. Well, similarly, Gen Con just earlier today or perhaps late yesterday also made a statement of inclusivity. They are reflecting a bill that is on the verge of being passed, the SB 101, which is being it has been voted on in Indianapolis. The location that Gen Con has, the city that has hosted Gen Con for several years now, although not originally. Gen Con does stand for Geneva Convention. So this bill, it can be interpreted that this will allow businesses to discriminate, to legally discriminate against people for ethnicity, culture, beliefs, sexual orientation, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. There are defenders of the bill that are saying that it is not quite that, and frankly, I don't speak legalese. I can only read how this bill has been interpreted, but people whose opinions I respect have not been happy with this bill, and they are mostly worried about what this means about just diversity and this just people being allowed to judge people for reasons other than who they are as people. It's something that we bring up on a fairly regular basis on the podcast. We feel that inclusivity is an extremely important part of, well, culture in general, but nerd culture and gaming culture. We feel like we need to be as inclusive as possible, that we are people that role play. We see things through other characters' eyes. And so we should be able to empathize and sympathize with anyone who is in a position where they can be judged and they can be prejudiced against. They can be just put down for some aspect of who they are. So what Gen Con has said is that if this bill is passed, then they will take that into consideration in 2020 when their contract with Indianapolis is up. What this has kind of been passed around is, some people have just kind of shortened this to, Gen Con says they're leaving Indy if this gets signed. That is obviously not what it says. But even for Gen Con to make a statement as public as they have made, to basically put an ultimatum to the city of Indianapolis and to Governor Mike Pence, who's basically, his signature is the only thing that's between making this law and making this just kind of go away. Yeah, they are standing their ground. They are saying that this is an issue that's important to us and our $50 billion that we bring in annually to the city of Indianapolis, and we really think you need to consider what that gaming and what that diversity dollar means to the city. So,
absolutely, and it makes me feel proud to be...
Go ahead.
Yeah. Absolutely, it makes me feel proud to be a gamer in this community at this time where it's about openness and it's about acceptance. And as a community and as a representative of the gamer community, I applaud the Gen Con, I guess, executive board for taking a stand here.
Yes, one person in particular has been credited for this. I need to find her name because I just closed that link prematurely. And now I need to zoom in. Adrian Swartout.
Adrian Swartout.
Yeah, CEO and owner of Gen Con.
Must be nice to own Gen Con.
I can say the only reason I have ever thought about going to Indianapolis was for Gen Con, and if Gen Con moves, my loyalty moves with Gen Con, not with the city that it's currently hosting.
True, true. And last up on our news for this episode, while not quite as as full of import as the others, still exciting. The Wrath of the Righteous character decks have been announced. So far in the base set, we have a smattering of characters we've seen before and some new ones from the Advanced Class Guide. So in the base set, we have Elaine, the Human Cavalier, Balazar, the Gnome Summoner, Enora, the Halfling Arcanist. Oh, yes?
It's not. It doesn't rhyme with Elaine, the lady's name. It's Alain. I know even people at Paizo pronounce it that way, but it is a French name. It is the French version of Alan. It's Alain.
Alain?
Alain.
Alain?
Alain.
I'm sorry. I don't have a multilinguist's tongue.
It's closer
I apologize.
to Alan than it is to Elaine.
Alain. Okay, I can hear it. I can hear the distinction. I cannot make my mouth say it, and I apologize.
That's fair. Just as someone who knows Alain, it's weird every time I hear someone call him Elaine. But I interrupt.
Fair enough.
Continue.
Sure. So Balazar, the Gnome Summoner, Enora, the Halfling Arcanist, and she's from the Advanced Class Guide. Harsk, the Dwarf Ranger, the tried and true gruff dwarf who only drinks tea. Kira, the Human Cleric. Sela, Human Paladin. And in the character add-on deck, we have Adowin, the Hunter, Crow, the Blood Rager, and Seoni, the Sorcerer, and Shardra, who is the Dwarven Shaman. I don't believe I knew the name Shardra, but in any case, it's a smattering of characters, all different classes and races, all representing what characters can do in the card game when they become mythic. A few teasers by Mike Selinker on the Paizo blog over the past couple of months about what mythic is going to bring to Wrath of the Righteous, but we're going to have to wait and see.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the first time Sela's been added to the card game?
No, I believe Sela was in the base set.
Sela the Paladin?
I don't know if she was Sela the Paladin. Yeah, she was in the base. She was in Wrath of the Righteous, but I don't remember if she was in the base set or the character add-on. But I'm fairly sure she was in Wrath of the Righteous. Okay. I'm definitely sure she in because I remember her being sort of really powerful.
Wait, she's in Wrath of the Righteous. They just announced this. Do you mean Skull and Shackles?
Oh, sorry. No. Yes, I keep saying Wrath of the Righteous. No, I mean Rise of the Runelords. She was in Rise of the Runelords, and I don't remember if she was in the base set or the character add-on set, okay. But I recall her being very powerful when I played that game.
So
she has the ability to smite every single encounter.
Of these characters, is there anyone you're particularly excited to see how it plays out?
So I've played quite a bit of the Pathfinder adventure card game. For those of you who don't know, I am the venture lieutenant of the Pathfinder card game in Boston, and I've played the card game fairly regularly with a smaller group. But in the game in general, I enjoy casters quite a bit. I like the spell casting mechanic. I like the sort of all or nothing rolls, and I like being able to I like the feeling of having to manage your resources. And being sort of really sunk if you're out of tricks, compared to sort of martial classes who will pretty much always have a weapon and always be able to do something in combat, but not necessarily be very helpful when it doesn't come to hitting things with a stick. So I am really curious to see how the Arcanist's tricks are going to play out. That being said, I'm curious to see how the Summoner works. So it's going to be very interesting. Yeah.
I'm personally pretty excited.
How about you? Have you?
Yeah, Crow the Human Blood Rager. I like the Blood Rager in concept. I've seen it has some issues at lower level, but ultimately I think the Blood Rager is a really cool class, and I just like the look of Crow. Crow's my kind of barbarian type. So, and the
Just
fact that
big, angry, and pulsing with electricity.
yes, and the fact that we will get a little bit of that spellcasting stuff that you like, and I'm imagining a lot of the warrior class stuff that I like. So I'll get to play the game a little bit like you play the game, while still getting to play the game the way I like to play the game.
It's true.
Also,
actually, if you
Balazar plays as a summoner in the game. I think just knowing that it's a deck management game and that your deck is your hit points, I feel like a summoner is going to have to cycle through that deck pretty quickly, and I'm curious to see how it works.
I am too. The closest that we've had to a summoner, I think, in the card game so far is in organized play. One of the wizards is a necromancer. And one of his abilities is whenever he defeats a monster, instead of banishing it, he puts it into his hand and can use it in other encounters. So that's the closest that I've seen. So I'm really curious to see what Balazar does, and whether or not his Eidolon is a major part of his mechanic. Well, I mean, of course it will be, but how, I guess.
Bard Wannabe is calling me out on being a Alain snob. Says, why should there be an assumption that this is the only iconic with a real-world name? Who knows what it is with an in-game accent? And I am brainstorming for another iconic that has a real-world name, and the closest I can come up with is Kira. And there's even some debate about how Kira's name is pronounced, whether it's Kira or Kyra. But I am standing by the fact that this should be pronounced with a French accent because it is based on the Cavalier, or Chevalier. Which is a French tradition, and just because, all right? Bard Wannabe, just because. Alain's name is Alain. I will let people pronounce Valeros, Valeros, and really any of those pronunciation disagreements. No problem. It actually adds flavor, and it shows that there's different ways that people view the same game as me, but not Alain. I don't care. His name is Alain.
I didn't know you had such strong feelings about pronunciation, Ryan.
I don't know why I do.
I knew you were a stickler for audio quality and for enunciation and for ums, but I didn't know name pronunciation was a thing for you.
Only if I'm confident in how it should be pronounced. And on that note, we'll be right back to wrap things up right after this. Oh, thought of another iconic that has a real-world name. Rita, the iconic goblin.
Rita. Oh,
I've known
Rita. And then there's Gogmert.
Mogmarch.
I like Gogmert. Mogmarch? There's Mogmarch, but I thought Gogmert was another one.
There's Poog, Rita,
Poog of Zarangel. Poog of Zarangel. He is my favorite.
But which one am I missing? Rita, Poog, Mogmarch.
Rita Big Bad, Mogmarch, Poog. Listeners? Anybody? Alex, you should know. You're listening. I'm counting on you. You know everything.
All right, check in chat. Oh, Alex says I'm just a stickler, period, except for product layout. For that, he was like, make it wondrous, Alex. Yeah, all right.
Heart
Ryan. And he hearts me. Okay, but Alex,
it's true.
What's the name of the last Goblin iconic that I could have looked up by now, but I'm not?
But we're relying on you, dear listeners, who don't know, who may not know, who should know. Alex is my co-host for Chuffy. You
Chuffy
got it?
the Rogue.
Chuffy the Rogue.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Anthony.
Alex is my co-host, is my fellow co-host for the Private Sanctuary podcast.
You guys have been doing a great job.
We rely on Alex to know a lot around here. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I've downloaded every episode.
I blame Alex for our success.
Well, I get to enjoy these with completely fresh set of ears. When a new Private Sanctuary podcast is released, I just get to be ooh, what are they talking about now? It's pretty cool.
Alex claims that the next Goblin iconic is Boomy the Firebug. I am dubious, Alex. I'm dubious.
The Harvestrian claims to not be a Goblin aficionado. Forgive me.
What are you doing liking Pathfinder?
Ooh,
Paizo's all about goblins.
Boomy the Firebug. All right, Alex, I'm expecting Boomy the Firebug to be an iconic design sometime in the future.
Yeah. We're calling you out. I mean, goblins are
we've got
great.
a question
but...
from Darren. What do you guys think?
Oh.
Where did it go?
Yeah.
I've lost it. How?
Oh.
It was
Darren,
just there.
Darren believes that the ACG will get all the limelight at PaizoCon.
Maybe.
Cool. I'm actually sort of sad that I'm going to miss this PaizoCon. It's just not in the cards for me this year, but the specials that they announced for PaizoCon sound really, really exciting.
Yeah,
that John was talking about
in the other ones.
Oh, I will look forward to hearing how this will go.
But yeah, no, that's a bummer because you've got writing credits now. Like, will your scenario be out by the time rolls around?
Maybe. I know. I don't know if I can say, but I know. Yeah. This is sort of my first. In the past 4 months, I've got a couple of different assignments sent in, and the sort of NDAs on them basically expire when they've been announced, but I don't exactly know when they have been and haven't been, because I don't. Yeah. So I'm sort of trying to play it safe. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I'm really excited to see what PaizoCon and Gen Con, this enormous the big half of the convention season. I'm really excited to see what this does for Pathfinder Society in general, though, and where we will go next.
All right, so this is not technically a no question segment, but I figured I've only got one shout out, so I'll throw in a couple of extra shout outs. Or I'll throw in a couple of questions to the shout out segment. So if you are ready to start.
Yep, whenever you are.
3, 2, 1. Thank you for joining us for episode 104 of No Direction, the Pathfinder News, Reviews, and Interviews podcast. Before we go, we want to do a couple of shout-outs, and we're going to do an impromptu no question segment. The first and only shout-out I've got is for ECCC. That is the Emerald City Comic Con. And if you are listening to this live, then you are going to get this in enough time because ECCC is this weekend. It starts on Friday, March 27th. And I will be in attendance. I will be there with Blind Ferrets. Specifically, we will be setting up a booth for Comic Bento, which is the Blind Box comic book subscription service. Or, well, it's graphic novels. It's the collections. There's some debate over whether graphic novel applies to all comics or just trade paperbacks. It's the trade paperbacks. In any case, we have a super awesome booth that I predict will be showing up in a lot of pictures for ECCC. Because it just looks amazing, and I cannot wait for people to see it. And I cannot wait to meet some people that may be fans of the podcast and will be attending ECCC. Feel free to drop by the Comic Bento booth. I will be at it the entire time. Give me a fist bump, listen to my spiel, and maybe subscribe to Comic Bento. We'll see. Now we've got a couple of questions, or one question and one shout-out from the audience. So Darren Caldemeyer says, what do we think about a fair amount of the published material being moved from May to June, July, meaning no special goodies for PaizoCon to showcase? Au contraire, Darren. There may be prototypes that will be at PaizoCon. We won't be able to buy them, but we might actually be able to see production quality ones, just the ones that got shipped by air while the rest of the supply is being shipped over by boat. What do I think of that? Yeah, okay, as a PaizoCon attendee, I'm a little bit bummed, but I've said in the past that I don't tend to buy things at PaizoCon or Gen Con if I know I can get it at a friendly local gaming store. Now, that was when I had a friendly local gaming store, so it probably would have been a little bit different this year, but I will always trust Paizo if it comes down to either delaying a product to make it better or to make it what they want that product to be, or me getting it when they originally scheduled it to. I will always default to them releasing it when the product is ready. and we know there was a lot of new staff was added to the Paizo roster, so who knows, maybe it's because there was a flub in the schedule, maybe a lot of that staff is there just to help right the ship. I don't expect this to be something that carries on and every product thereafter is delayed. No, I think that, yeah, okay, maybe May's going to be a bit of a rough patch, a bit dry for a new product, but it won't last long.
Yeah, and absolutely. When it comes down to being on time but not quite done, or being delayed and absolutely ready, I will take the second almost every time. And there's industry precedent for this, even outside of other companies do this all the time when they emphasize quality over punctuality. And obviously, it's good to have both, and it's ideal to have both. But I feel like when it comes to Paizo's level of quality for their projects, for their products, I feel like they're making the right choice.
And finally, a couple of points that Alex Agunas has brought up in chat. Number one, he's going to PaizoCon, as will I be, and Anthony, unfortunately, you won't be going there, but you'll have one representative of the No Direction podcast, one representative of the Private Sanctuary podcast, and who knows, maybe you'll be able to get in on a game with the two of us. I've played with Alex online. I've never played with him in person. That would be kind of a fun experience. So, Alex, we are going to meet up, and maybe, just maybe, we're going to get a game in. He also says he's 95% going to Gen Con. I always get worried about people that make predictions in the 90s, because the number of times that someone says like 99%, the number of times it's come up as that 1% is way more than statistically probable. I think they are bad at predicting things. Not to judge you specifically, Alex, but until you say 100%, until you can show me the ticket, both the plane ride, the hotel, okay, I said both, but all three, plane ride, hotel, and actual convention ticket, I'm not going to put any faith into that 95%.
Ooh. He says game on.
He does. His Pack Magic Kickstarter, by the way, which we shouted out to in the previous podcast, it ends tomorrow. So Pact Magic is a cool subsystem that he has kind of championed, and we're going to get some stuff that is maybe slightly similar to it in the upcoming the new hardcover at Gen Con that they did the playtest for. The something
the
adventures.
Occult Adventures.
The Occult Adventures. But if it's whatever's in Occult Adventures will maybe be like a sixth of that book or maybe a third of that book, whereas the Pack Magic stuff is like it takes the concept and it just puts a huge magnifying glass on it and really develops different ways that you can use Pack Magic in your Pathfinder role-playing game. So the earlier Pack Magic stuff is available at, Drive-Thru RPG and stuff, but this new stuff is only available with the Kickstarter tomorrow. Now, it's already funded, but there's still stretch goals that you should be checking out. I don't have them listed here, so I'm just going to tell you to go to Kickstarter, Google search Pact Magic, and as I said last time, if you have ever liked an iconic design, pledge $5 per iconic design or any article that Alex has posted for free to the No Direction blog, and put that towards Pack Magic, even if you're not really interested in Pack Magic, just as a way of saying, thanks, Alex. You're pretty awesome. And speaking of his iconic designs, between this segment and the news segment, we got into just a debate about what some of the iconic goblins are called, and Anthony believed that Alex would be able to tell us what the fourth one, the one we failed to name, which was Chuffy, for the record. He asked Alex what it was, and Alex in chat replied, Boomy the Firebug. It's not right. But Boomy the Firebug will be actualized. Alex has added it to the schedule, and you will get to see Boomy the Firebug premiere on the April 10th edition of Iconic Design. So thanks, Alex. It's cool that just a weird little joke you made can suddenly become an edition of Iconic Design. That's interactive media for you guys. So Alex, nope, sorry. So Anthony, I want to thank you for joining me.
Hello.
Replacing Paramount short
Yeah,
note.
of course.
And is there anything you would like to shout out to?
I'm all set. Actually, yeah. So I also author a blog on nodirectionpodcast.com called Behind the Screens. And I just want to throw it out there to our listeners. If you guys had any topics you'd like me to cover in the future, let me know. Send me an email or send me a post a message on our Facebook group, the Private Sanctuary, 3.5 Private Sanctuary. Let me know what you want to hear about.
Until next time, I'm Ryan Costello.
And I'm Anthony Lee.
And you are always no, that's yours. If you want to find the path, you need no direction.
Yeah, that was old habits die hard, huh?
Well, and you also just mentioned the Private Sanctuary, and so my brain just got all messed up.
It's true. Yeah. Sorry.
All right.
I actually felt bad. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Thanks for everyone that listened live. I know that this was not the smoothest episode we've ever produced, but I think it came together in the end, and I really enjoyed our interview with Chris. He's fun. He's eloquent.
Yeah, Chris is a great guy.
Pirates are cool, and he makes them especially cool.
Oh, can I share a witticism from Chris prior to the show's recording?
Please do.
He just expressed some trepidation on having never used Google Hangouts before, to which I responded that I don't know very much about boats, so we could share. And he told me that boats are fairly simple: dry up, wet down.
And I can say that
when you put it that way.
I've got plenty of experience with Google Hangouts, and I am still hesitant every single time we use it. All right, we're going off the air. Thanks a lot, guys, that were listening. Hopefully,
Thanks, everyone.
You had a good time.